There's a moment almost every guy knows. You finish talking to a woman, walk away, and then your brain starts replaying every second like it's game footage. The eye contact, the smile, the way she said your name, the little laugh at something that honestly wasn't even that funny. And then the question hits, was she actually into you? Or are you just reading way too much into it? That confusion is incredibly common. Not because men are clueless, and not because attraction is impossible to read. It's usually because most people are looking for giant, obvious, unmistakable signs. They expect attraction to be loud, clear, direct, almost theatrical. But in real life, genuine interest is usually much quieter than that. A lot of the time, attraction shows up in small patterns. A glance that lingers a little too long, a shift in tone, a tiny effort that doesn't seem important until you notice it keeps happening. And that's the key. One sign alone usually doesn't mean much, but several signs together, that's where the story starts to become obvious. So let's break down 7 real signs she may be into you. Not cheesy myths, not fantasy, not wishful thinking, but the subtle behaviors many people overlook. And by the end, you'll have a much better sense of the difference between politeness, friendliness, and genuine attraction. Let's get into it. 1. She holds eye contact just a little longer than normal. This is one of the easiest signs to miss because it happens so fast. It's not some dramatic stare across the room. It's not movie-level intensity. It's usually much smaller than that. She looks at you, and the eye contact lasts just a little longer than a casual social glance normally would. Maybe there's a tiny smile with it. Maybe she looks away and then looks back again a moment later. That extra second matters. Most people don't maintain extended eye contact unless they feel something. Comfort, curiosity, attraction, interest, or emotional engagement. Eye contact creates tension in the best sense. It says, I'm paying attention to you. It says, I'm present with you. And when someone keeps returning to it, it often means you've captured more of their attention than they intended to show. Now, this doesn't mean every woman who looks at you is secretly obsessed with you. Context matters. Some people are naturally confident and expressive. Some just have strong social skills. But when the eye contact feels warmer, more deliberate, and slightly more lingering than normal, that's different. Pay attention to the pattern. Does she hold eye contact while you're talking, even when she doesn't have to? Does she smile with her eyes, not just her mouth? Does she look away, then glance back as if she's still mentally locked in? That kind of repeated eye contact often signals more than friendliness. And here's something else people miss. Attraction-driven eye contact often has a different energy than ordinary eye contact. It feels softer, more playful, more curious, less formal. It's not just, I see you. It's, I'm interested in you. If it happens once, it could mean nothing. If it happens again and again, especially with a smile or a slight shift in expression, there's a good chance it's intentional, even if it's subtle. Sometimes attraction begins right there, in that brief moment when someone looks a little too long, then tries to act like they didn't. 2. She mirrors your energy, body language, or rhythm. This one is subtle, but once you notice it, you start seeing it everywhere. Imagine you lean back in your chair, and a few seconds later, she does the same. You speak a little slower, and her pace settles too. You tilt your head, cross your arms, take a sip, or shift your posture, and somewhere in the next few moments, she starts reflecting pieces of that behavior. That's called mirroring. People naturally mirror those they feel connected to. It's a social behavior that often happens without conscious thought. When someone likes your energy, feels comfortable around you, or is drawn to your presence, they start syncing with you. Not perfectly, not like a copy machine, but close enough to notice. Maybe she matches your tone. Maybe she starts using phrases similar to yours. Maybe your conversation cadence starts to line up, and suddenly it feels like the two of you are moving in the same rhythm. That matters because attraction isn't only about appearance. A huge part of it is emotional and behavioral alignment. When someone is enjoying your presence, their body often shows it before their words ever do. And the beautiful thing about mirroring is that it creates a sense of flow. Conversations feel smoother, pauses feel less awkward, the interaction starts to feel easy, almost like you've known each other longer than you actually have. But again, this is about patterns, not isolated moments. If she mirrors one thing, that might just be coincidence. If she consistently matches your posture, your emotional tone, your pace, or even the level of enthusiasm you bring into the conversation, that's much more revealing. You can often tell when someone is merely being polite. Polite conversation stays on the surface. Mirroring usually shows deeper engagement. It means she's not just hearing you, she's tuning into you, and that kind of unconscious synchronization is rarely random. 3. She starts adjusting her appearance while talking to you. This is one of the oldest attraction signs in the book, but people either exaggerate it or dismiss it completely. Yes, playing with her hair can mean attraction. No, it doesn't always mean attraction. That's why context matters so much. If she's casually fixing her hair, touching her necklace, adjusting her sleeve, straightening her posture, or checking how she presents herself while actively engaged in conversation with you, that can be a meaningful sign. Why? Because when people care how they are being perceived by someone, they often start self-adjusting. They become slightly more aware of their appearance. They want to look composed, attractive, put together, not in a dramatic way, just in subtle little ways that reveal they suddenly care about the impression they're making. It might look like this. She tucks her hair behind her ear and smiles. She fixes her top or jacket when you approach. She smooths her outfit or checks her face briefly before continuing the conversation. She lightly touches her hair while maintaining eye contact. Individually, none of these prove anything, but together, especially when they happen specifically around you, they can signal nervous energy mixed with attraction. And that's important because attraction doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like self-consciousness. Sometimes it looks like someone wanting to appear effortless while quietly hoping they're making a good impression. There's also a difference between random fidgeting and presentation behavior. Random fidgeting feels disconnected. Presentation behavior happens while her attention stays on you. That's the part to notice. If she's grooming herself while staying engaged in the moment with you, there's a good chance she cares about how she's coming across. And people don't usually become hyper-aware of that unless someone's opinion matters to them. 4. Her voice changes when she talks to you. This sign is seriously underrated. A lot of attraction isn't just in what someone says, it's in how they say it. Pay attention to her voice when she talks to other people, and then how it sounds when she talks to you. Does it become softer, more playful, more warm, more teasing, more attentive? Sometimes when a woman is attracted to someone, her voice shifts almost automatically. It may become lighter, gentler, more melodic, or more expressive. She might sound more engaged than she does with everyone else. Even if the words are ordinary, the delivery feels different, and that difference can tell you a lot. People change their vocal tone around those they feel drawn to because attraction naturally creates emotional energy. It makes people more aware, more animated, more careful, or more flirtatious. Some become softer, some become more talkative, some get slightly nervous and laugh more, others become teasing and playful because that feels safer than being direct. The exact style varies from person to person, but the shift itself is the clue. Maybe with everyone else, her voice is straightforward and casual, but with you, it slows down, or becomes warmer, or suddenly has this joking, almost intimate tone to it. That doesn't happen by accident very often. Also listen for investment. Does she sound more curious when asking you questions? Does she seem to linger in the conversation instead of rushing through it? Does she react more strongly to what you say than the situation really requires? A woman who likes you often won't just talk to you differently. She'll sound more alive when she does, and that emotional color matters, because attraction rarely hides only in words. It leaks into tone, pacing, laughter, and emphasis. Sometimes the clearest sign isn't what she says, it's that her whole voice changes when it's directed at you. 5. She finds ways to create physical closeness. Now this one matters a lot, but it needs to be understood correctly. Attraction doesn't automatically mean bold physical contact. Not everyone is naturally touchy. Not everyone expresses comfort the same way. But when someone likes you, they often look for small ways to reduce the distance between you. Maybe she brushes your arm while laughing. Maybe she taps your shoulder to make a point. Maybe she stands a little closer than necessary. Maybe she sits near you even when there are other options. Maybe she doesn't pull away quickly from casual contact that could easily be avoided. All of that can mean something. Physical closeness is often a quiet test. It's a way of exploring comfort, chemistry, and safety without having to verbally announce interest. It says, "I'm okay being near you." And sometimes, even more than that, it says, "I want to see how this feels." That's why proximity is such a big signal. People naturally move closer to those they enjoy. They angle their body toward them. They leave less space. They stay in their orbit longer than necessary. And when there's attraction involved, those behaviors often become more noticeable. There's also a major difference between neutral touch and intentional touch. Neutral touch is functional. It happens because it has to. Intentional touch feels unnecessary in the best way. It's light, casual, almost easy to dismiss, but it keeps happening. That's usually the clue. The shoulder tap that didn't need to happen. The arm brush that lasted a fraction longer. The moment she leans in close to tell you something she easily could have said from farther away. These are often micro signals of interest. But there's one more piece here. How she reacts afterward. Does she seem comfortable? Does she keep talking naturally? Does she maintain the closeness? If so, that usually tells you she's not doing it by accident. She's comfortable with the connection and maybe even enjoying the tension. Attraction often starts with small permission slips. Physical closeness is one of the clearest ones. 6. She remembers the little things you say. This one is huge because it reveals investment. Anyone can remember the obvious stuff: your name, your job, the broad outline of a story. That doesn't mean much on its own. But when she remembers small details, the tiny, random, almost forgettable things you mentioned casually, that's different. Maybe you once said you hate olives. Maybe you mentioned a weird childhood hobby. Maybe you talked about your dog, your favorite snack, your terrible luck with directions, or the movie you've watched 10 times even though you pretend it's not that good. And later she brings it up, not because she had to. Not because it was important, just because she remembered. That usually means one thing: you stood out. People remember what they emotionally register. When someone matters to us, even in a growing, early stage way, our brain starts tagging details about them as relevant. That's why attraction often shows up through memory. She's not just listening to respond. She's listening to store pieces of you. And that's powerful, because attention is one of the purest forms of interest. If she remembers details no one else would think twice about, it suggests your words landed differently with her. You didn't just pass through her attention for a minute, you stayed there. This can also show up in thoughtful follow-up questions. How did that thing go that you mentioned? Did your dog ever stop being scared of that? Have you watched that movie yet? When are you going on that trip you talked about? Those kinds of follow-ups matter because they show continuity. She's carrying the conversation mentally even when you're not around. That is not casual. And sometimes this is more revealing than flirting itself. Because some people flirt with everyone, but they don't remember everyone. They don't mentally bookmark random details from every conversation. That takes actual attention, actual curiosity, actual interest. So if she remembers the little things, don't brush it off too quickly. A lot of attraction lives in exactly that space, in the details someone didn't have to keep, but chose to. 7. Her friends already know about you. This is the final boss because it reveals what happens when you're not even there. If you meet her friends and somehow they already know your name, recognize you, know what you do, know something funny you said, or give you that look that says, oh, so this is the guy, that is a very strong sign. Why? Because people talk about what excites them. If she's mentioning you to her friends, especially more than once, it usually means you've taken up more space in her mind than a random person would. Her friends knowing about you means you're not just part of a moment. You've become part of the conversation after the moment. That's significant. Friends are often the first audience for attraction. Before anything is official, before anything is admitted directly, before someone says out loud, I like him, they usually test that feeling with the people closest to them. They tell a story, repeat a joke, mention your name casually, bring up something you said, ask for an opinion, and if it happens enough, suddenly the friend group knows you exist. That's not nothing. In fact, it's one of the clearest signs that her interest is active, not passive. She's thinking about you after the interaction ends. She's replaying moments. She's assigning meaning. She's letting other people into that curiosity. And here's where it gets even more obvious. Friends often act different when they know. They might smile at her when you show up. They might leave space for the two of you to talk. They might tease her. They might suddenly seem way too interested in observing the interaction. That kind of social energy can tell you a lot, because attraction is rarely a private event forever. If it's real and growing, it often leaks outward. So if the friends seem familiar with you before they should be, there's a solid chance you've already been a topic of discussion. And people do not usually brief the group about someone who means absolutely nothing. The part most people get wrong: one sign is not enough. Now here's the mistake a lot of people make. They hear one of these signs and instantly decide it means everything. She touched my arm. She must like me. She remembered my coffee order. It's fate. She made eye contact twice. This is destiny. Slow down. One sign by itself usually doesn't prove much. People are complex. Some are naturally warm, some are expressive, some remember details well, some are comfortable with touch, some are just being friendly. That's why the smartest way to read attraction is not to look for one dramatic clue. Look for clusters. If she holds eye contact, mirrors your energy, remembers small details, changes her tone, and finds reasons to be close to you, now you're not dealing with coincidence. Now you're seeing a pattern. And patterns are where attraction becomes easier to read. The more signs that stack up, the less likely it is that you're imagining it. That's the difference between wishful thinking and awareness. Another thing to understand, attraction doesn't always look bold. A lot of men miss genuine interest because they expect confidence to look obvious. But attraction is often shy. Sometimes she likes you and becomes quieter around you. Sometimes she laughs more. Sometimes she gets slightly awkward. Sometimes she acts more composed than usual because she's trying not to make it obvious. Sometimes she gives mixed signals, not because she wants to play games, but because she's nervous, unsure, or trying to protect herself from rejection the same way you probably do. That's important to remember. Not every woman who likes you is going to be bold enough to say it directly. Many will show it through increased attention, warmth, curiosity, nervous energy, and repeated effort. That's why subtlety matters. If you only look for the loudest signs, you'll miss a lot of real ones. So what should you actually do if you notice these signs? First, don't panic. Second, don't turn into a detective trying to decode every blink and breath. And third, don't jump from, "I think she likes me," to weird, overconfident behavior. The right move is simple. Respond well. If she's giving you attention, give her your attention. If she remembers details, remember hers too. If she creates closeness, be calm and comfortable. If she seems engaged, keep the conversation going. If the energy is there, invite more of it. That might mean talking to her a little longer, asking better questions, creating a chance to spend time together, suggesting something low pressure and natural. You do not need a perfect line. You do not need to perform. You just need to notice the green lights and move with a little confidence instead of freezing in your own head, because that's where a lot of opportunities die. Not from rejection, but from hesitation. So many people spend too much time waiting for certainty, but attraction rarely arrives with a signed contract. Most of the time, it shows up as a series of small invitations. A little extra eye contact, a little extra warmth, a little extra attention, a little extra effort. If you learn to recognize those invitations, dating starts making a lot more sense. Final takeaway. If she gives you one sign, it might be nothing. If she gives you several consistently over time, there's a good chance she's interested. Eye contact, mirroring, adjusting her appearance, a softer or more playful tone, physical closeness, remembering little details, friends already knowing about you. None of these alone are a guarantee, but together they paint a pretty clear picture. The biggest mistake is not missing one sign. It's ignoring a pattern because you're too busy overthinking it. So stop looking for some giant neon sign that says, "Yes, she likes you." Attraction usually doesn't work like that. It's quieter, smaller, more human. And once you learn how to notice it, you realize the signs were there the whole time. You just weren't reading them yet.